Did I ever tell you the tragedy of Star Wars? Jedi Survivor.
No, but have you heard the tale of Ahsoka Tano?
What?
He was a fine piece of jailbait from a more civilized age.
Obi-Wan, what the fuck?
Once in a while, the entire 501st Battalion would run.
Everything I'm doing feels pointless. The Empire's only growing stronger.
It is delusion to think your actions have had any consequence.
Things, haven't been the same since the team split.
How could you let the galaxy fall to this unworthy machine of an empire?
Don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready for what comes next.
So Star Wars Jedi Survivor came out last year, and I was gonna make a review video on it back when it came out, but I kinda got lazy. But I recently just replayed the game and I wanted to make a video on the game because I genuinely think it's a masterpiece. To the fantastic music, to the fantastic gameplay, to the level design, to the boss fights, to the story. Everything I feel about this game hits like every level of what makes a game great to me in my favorite genre of games. But when it came out, it was obviously bogged down by performance issues, and that's all I saw people criticizing the game for. Hence the title of the video. I honestly don't blame Respawn for the launch of this game. I honestly blame EA, and I can 100% guarantee that they made them release this game when it was unfinished. But now that the game is fixed, this masterpiece can finally be appreciated. I hope. So what I'm going to do with the story section of this video is break it down into sections regarding like the characters. So first I want to get into Cal and the crew. Right from the opening scene, you can see the development of Cal that he's been on as a person since the ending of Jedi Fallen Order, and there doesn't even need to be any dialogue for it. He looks more calm and confident as he heads down into Coruscant, overlooking the place that caused him the most trauma in his life, that he made progress in overcoming in Jedi Fallen Order, that I went over in a video on my channel yesterday, so you should watch that after this one. But he's taken that progress and used that to fight against the Empire, where we then see that this was a setup for Cal to get information on the Empire. But with that, he learns that all the fighting he's done and all the progress he thought he made, like Darth Vader says later in the game,
It is delusion to think your actions have had any consequence.
Only, unlike Vader and the Empire, Cal has suffered meaningful consequences. And we see this personified right after this. Everyone Cal was here with on this mission are people that Cal has grown a bond with and cared about, and they all die. And while I would have liked a bit more backstory on the crew, like throughout the game, what's more meaningful in the story is how it affects Cal. And that's a big thing about the story that I really like, and it's the sense of stakes. But I'll touch more on the stakes bit of the story later in the video. But the main thing that comes from this is showing Cal's inner darkness and what is to come later in the story.
Impressive! But you're hurting bad inside, Kestis. I can sense it. All the guilt you're feeling for those fools you led to their deaths makes you so predictable.
But moving on, Cal arrives on Kobo where we have this conversation with Grease. And here's where we get more of a sense of Cal's internal conflict at the beginning of the game.
You got plenty of time to fix the madness. You are what I want to talk about.
I'm fine. Sooner we get moving, the better.
And then what? You're gonna go find some trouble with Saw Gerrera?
Maybe. Yeah, one of us has to keep fighting.
That's funny. That's the exact same thing you said the day we all split up.
Yeah, because Listen, I know you all had your reasons for leaving, but walking away isn't an option for me. I have to hold the line.
And where's that gotten you, Cal? I wish things were different, but you keep losing people. And you yourself said that the Empire's growing stronger every day. Now maybe it's time for you to be something more than a lightsaber. Think about yourself. Settle down, find a home.
What? Home, Grease. There is no home. Home was the Order. It was my teacher. It was everyone I lost. What does their sacrifice mean if I go and I just give up and stick my head in the sand?
I know you were dealt a bad hand, but you gotta take it from me. Somebody who had to learn the hard way. You gotta know when to walk away from a rigged game. Otherwise, you are gonna end up losing something you could never replace.
Cal believes that he has a responsibility to continue fighting back against the Empire due to all the lives around him that have come from the hands of the Empire. But what Grease is trying to communicate to Cal is that if he keeps going down this path, he will wind up losing himself. Merrin also relays a similar message when we have this moment between her and Cal in this cave.
I think we might have found something special. A place where the Empire can't find us. It would mean leaving the fight. And well, the fight is all I know.
Look into the fire. It will warm you. Keep you company on dark, lonesome nights, yes? But left unchecked, it will consume everything in its path. Until there is only ash. I had to leave, Cal. In order to see the galaxy on my own terms.
What'd you find?
Myself. Reflected in all the places and people I encountered. Dathomir will always be my home, but it does not need to define me.
And persistently throughout the story, while meeting up back with the Mantis crew, we see them as pieces used in this story to reflect what Cal needs to do. This moment with Cere also touches upon this as well.
You chose a hard path.
And it hasn't made a difference.
Well, while the Empire's trained its eyes on you, we've been able to build the network, find allies, and save lives.
When you left, you'd just given up. I was wrong.
Cal, you were just a child when they sent you off to war. You know, there was a time when I remember that the Jedi were more than just weapons, but we both have our roles to play in this struggle.
But the thing that the Mantis crew represent for Cal is finding something in his life and finding more of himself so that he can do something less likely to destroy himself in the future. And in the first act, he finds that thing, being Tanalorr, and hopes to make it a safe haven for those hunted by the Empire. But as we see when meeting Merrin, Cal is still a bit iffy on if he himself is ready to stop fighting a battle that I think he subconsciously knows is pointless in the grand scope of things, and he even relays to us that it feels pointless.
Everything I'm doing feels pointless. The Empire's only growing stronger.
And he's struggling to move on with it because of stuff I just discussed earlier. And if Cal doesn't have these people in his life, well then that would be his downfall. But shortly after the crew's reunion, we get this moment where Bode gives Cal a blaster, and while this can definitely be chalked up to just an excuse for giving us the blaster in gameplay, I think this moment, as well as another moment with Bode, serve as that looming presence from the first game that the Jedi Order were a flawed council, Bode both giving him a blaster and telling him later that it's okay to fall in love and grow romantically attached to Merrin both represent this. Blasters are a very useful weapon in combat that most of the Jedi Order neglected due to parading around the sentiment of peace. They believe that combat should only be necessary in order to defend themselves or the helpless. So using a blaster was, to most of the Jedi Order,
So uncivilized.
but the attachment part of this is definitely more nuanced due to the fact that Bode himself fell to the dark side, and he of all people is telling Cal this. And Bode lost himself due to his attachment to his daughter and his wife. And with Cal, his attachment to his friends caused the darkness within him to grow, and losing Cere almost made him lose himself. But ironically, it was his attachment and friendship with Merrin that pulled him out of this.
Where's Bode?
They're gone. He took his daughter and the compass. They used me as a distraction.
Damn you! Go on, Jedi. Do it! Do it! Rather you than Lord Vader.
Who is this?
He sent Bode after our team. My crew. Cordova.
Cere!
They're all dead because of him!
Cal! This is what Bode wants. I know you are in pain, but this is not you! The Empire has taken enough from us! I will not lose you two!
He won't.
But if Merrin wasn't there, I don't know if Cal would be the same person, and he would most likely fall to the dark side. And while at the home base, we also get some interesting information from Cordova.
I'm curious to hear what you make of Dagan Gera's history.
Dagan felt like his life's work was being threatened. That obsession led him astray.
Sounds all too familiar.
What do you mean?
You may recall that I had a vision foretelling the fall of the Order. But the Council... well, let's just say that my warnings fell on deaf ears. In my arrogance, I felt betrayed.
But you were right.
That's beside the point. I allowed my wounded pride to cloud my judgment. When the Purge began, I was still searching for proof that my vision was true. Instead of being there to support Seer and her Padawan.
I like how they show this parallel that stretches to both Dagan and Cal, but to take a quick break from Cal, I want to talk about our antagonists in the story and what they mean to the story and Cal and the other characters. I believe the utilization of all the antagonists in this story is very well done for the most part, and they reflect Cal the opposite of what the Mantis crew do to reflect Cal. As I said earlier, the Mantis crew represent what Cal should be doing, whereas the antagonists represent what will happen to Cal if he walks down the wrong path or continues to do what he's doing. The first antagonist I want to talk about is Rayvis. When we arrive on Kobo, we are first introduced to Rayvis, and we instantly see the kind of person that he is. He is a respectful and honorable warrior. He knows what the Jedi are and how they operate. And so in seeing that Cal is trying to protect Kermit over here, and acting as the Jedi do, he doesn't care to take this fight at the moment because he has other priorities, and if Cal will back away from an unnecessary fight, then Rayvis will also do the same thing and withdraw in peace. And the next time we see Rayvis, he's manhandling Cal in order to get the compass that he has. Now, I will say, I don't know how Rayvis knew Cal was in these walls. Maybe he can see through walls, maybe he heard him clamoring about. I have no clue, but this scene instantly gives us the sense of like power and intimidation that Rayvis has. And I mean, what better way to show that than putting a lightsaber in someone's chest?
And he stands there, unfazed!
I also really like this next scene.
Tell me, did the Jedi's death satisfy you?
He escaped.
All those years of incarceration dull your edge.
Sharp enough to see the Jedi might be your equal.
Say it again and I'll cut out your tongue.
It'll grow back. Dagan, listen. The Jedi is a threat.
Not now that we have this.
I already duplicated the device's frequencies. We can now access any site she sealed.
Well done, Rayvis.
Dagan. After you have it, I will consider my oath to you fulfilled.
What then, old friend?
The galaxy has changed. There are many wars, but little honor to be won from them.
Once we are on Tanalorr, perhaps we can dream up a new war. You and I.
Perhaps.
This shows, again, that Rayvis truly is an honorable and noble warrior. He respects that Cal is even able to escape him, and instantly notices him as a possible threat that shouldn't go underestimated. And he brings that fact to Dagan's attention, and this is when we see the difference between the two. Dagan is arrogant and overconfident, while Rayvis is the opposite. And we can also see this looming sense of Rayvis not really knowing what to do after his duty to Dagan is complete. And this brings us to the next moment between Rayvis and Cal, where the parallel between the two is really shown, and Rayvis is ended.
You've already killed for it. Maybe you're ready to look at the time. I will show you no mercy. In turn, I would expect none from you. Surrender to prison, and I will not be imprisoned again. A cage is the only true defeat. Dominance is the only true victory.
Jedi.
Why did you activate the array?
It's been many years since I last took the life of a Jedi.
Why did you activate the...
I heard you. Long ago, Dagan bested me in combat. Earned my loyalty. We fought side by side until the Jedi betrayed him. It took many of your order to defeat me. And yet, they dishonored me. Denied me a warrior's death. Left me to rot in a cage for centuries. So, it seems our destinies are intertwined. The demise of your order allowed me to escape.
And yet, nothing has changed. You're still just Dagan's servant.
Time does not diminish my loyalties. Without a code, you can only serve yourself.
I defeated you. Fight with me. We can take on Dagan together.
I will not, Jedi. After all these centuries, I still dream of Tanalorr. I had hoped to see it again, but... that is not to be.
Rayvis.
Dagan Gera stands in your way.
You don't have to do this.
Only one of you will reach Tanalorr. Jedi, give me my warrior's death.
Rayvis is a spitting image of where Cal would have ended up eventually, even if he was to defeat the Empire at this point in where his character was at in the beginning of the story. He would have gone nowhere as a person. He would still be stuck to his flawed code, and wouldn't make much of himself. Just like Rayvis spending all this time not really making much of himself, and spending all this time waiting to try and fulfill his duty to Dagan, and Cal even mentions this after the fight.
Maybe Rayvis was right. Dagan abandoned the Jedi code. Now look at him. Consumed by his obsession with Tanalorr. How is that different from what we're doing? On the Shattered Moon, I saw Dagan confront Centauri. He was so consumed by Tanalorr that he completely lost his way. Reminds me of my fight with the Empire these last few years. Let's just say I don't want to end up like him.
You are very stubborn, but ambition does not drive you.
I just don't understand why she didn't see the change in him before it was too late.
They dreamed together and suffered together. A shared dream is not so easy to wake from. Is that what troubles you? Losing yourself?
Yeah. A little.
If you ever stray from your path, we will guide you back.
But now let's move on to Dagan. Now, how I feel about Dagan in this story is a bit conflicting. When I first went through the story, we kind of just beat him, and I was left, like, very unsatisfied with how the story seemed to be coming to an end. But after completing it, we obviously realized that Bode was going to be the true ending antagonist that Cal has to go through to complete this part of his journey. But I still felt like Dagan, for as hyped up as he was made to be in the marketing and in the narrative, as he was pretty much treated as the central antagonist for pretty much two-thirds of the story, I still felt like Dagan's screen time was a bit short. And now, after going through the story about 4 times, I feel like I understand a bit more now, like, what his motives are, and why the developers chose to not focus on him as much as a character like Trilla from Jedi Fallen Order. But that's not to say that I think the execution of Dagan as a character has no flaws, so let me get into it. When first introduced to Dagan, we see that he was fascinated by Tanalorr and saw it as a place that can be used as a bastion for the Republic, and a place that can be used to train younglings due to its strong connection to the Force. It was his life's work. We can see in this scene that he has struggles with impatience and anger.
They've been in there for hours.
Council members are not known for their hasty judgments. Especially Master Rancesis.
My duel with the Gendai didn't take this long.
You won in the end. Be patient.
Not one of my strong suits.
And if you're going to teach younglings, you had better learn. I have faith in you. So does the Council. Trust them to do the right thing.
But he has someone to help him through these emotions with Centauri Kree. And what I interpret from this scene is that if he doesn't have someone like Centauri, then just like Cal with Merrin, Dagan would likely turn to the dark side. And of course, that's what happens. In the scene where Dagan confronts Cal as he tries to save Z, this makes one thing clear to both Cal and to us.
You murdered your fellow Jedi.
I struck down those who stood against me. Leave us or share their fate?
Even if you believe the Council betrayed you, they were still your family.
How arrogant. That you would presume to know what drives me?
What I can see is your obsession with Tanalorr has blinded you. Whatever happened, you can't change the past. Trust me on that one.
Perhaps you're right. The past is a chain. I must sever it completely!
Cal tries to get through to Dagan due to past experience that he grew from in the first game, and the lessons learned up to this point in the story as well, but Dagan will hear none of it. And it's interesting that they show this next scene.
Safest way out of here.
Sure about that?
No.
Okay then.
You seem nervous. I'm going with him.
Hop aboard, Z. See you at the outpost.
Yep, I'm coming. I hate these things.
That acknowledges Cal's trauma of getting inside an escape pod, and that's the same place where he was left alone and where he had to watch his master die, sacrificing himself to save Cal. And despite this, he gets in the escape pod anyway, and he keeps himself composed. It's just a subtle detail that reflects not only Cal's growth, but the last conversation between him and Dagan as well. But stemming off that scene, I want to go to the next couple of things that go deeper into Dagan's turn to the dark side. His home and his greatest accomplishment in life is invaded, and after this invasion, the Jedi Council gives up the shot of what Dagan wanted with Tanalorr, and so Dagan feels betrayed, not just by the Order, but by Santari Khri as well. And the obsession with Tanalorr caused him to lose everyone in his life, as well as himself.
If Santari had only stood with me, we could have convinced the Council that Tanalorr was worth the sacrifice. Now she's gone. Rayvis is gone. The Order is gone, and I am free!
You're not free, Dagan. You're alone.
Why are you here when your true enemy is out there? How could you let the galaxy fall to this unworthy machine of an empire? You think yourself a survivor, but you are a failure!
They haven't beaten us. Not yet.
Now who is blinded by the past?
Which, as I've already gone over, I'm sure you see the parallel to Cal. But as I said in the beginning of this section, I have a bit of an issue with the execution of his character. For one, I love how the story uses him to reflect Cal, and I think the execution of that part of the story was done fantastically. But what I still don't like is the lack of screen time he has, or even the lack of lore to find regarding the character, because we really don't get that much of it, for it to be as fleshed out as I thought it should have been. If we had just seen a bit more of like a showing of Dagan and Santari's relationship, Dagan's fall to the dark side, more of a dive into why Tanalorr means so much to him, and even discussions with him in the Council, I would have considered him an amazing villain, but unfortunately, we just don't see that. But what we do have is the ending of him and how it stems to Bode. Cal makes a decision, and we can subtly tell that Bode's demeanor changed right after that decision.
Maybe Dagan was right.
You sure you're not still, you know?
Think about it. Tanalorr's a fortress. We should use it for the hidden path. Gather allies, train. They'd never see us coming.
I don't know, that seems risky.
Everything is at risk so long as the Empire's around. Besides, you don't want Kata spending her whole life in hiding, do you?
If she's safe, Cal? Yeah. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I understand that. But someday, someone's gonna have to face the Empire. Why not us? I bet Cordova can fix this up. Let's head back to Jeddah.
Sure. I'm gonna take a look around first, see if I can find a manual for that thing or something.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Bode was sent by an ISB higher-up to infiltrate Cal's crew, to try and track down Seer as well, but he doesn't necessarily have a loyalty to either side. Bode's primary loyalty lies with whatever he feels will keep his daughter the most safe. So for those of you questioning why Bode or the Empire didn't have Inquisitors on the crew's ass the whole game, that's one of your answers. You can also listen to like other Force echoes you can find throughout the game after you beat it, and you will find like echoes that also like give you that definitively.
Bode, it's so good to hear from you. I feared you might have slipped your leash permanently. What is your current location?
Outer Rim, Kobo. But keep your people out of here for now. Understand? We're headed off planet to meet her.
Impressive. And where is she, exactly?
Wouldn't you like to know? Call it a contingency plan. You harm a hair on Kata's head, and I'll make sure Seer Junda stays hidden forever.
But anyways, I believe that Bode was truly willing to be a friend to Cal if the relationship had not taken a turn and their motivations had shifted. Through Force echoes, you can tell that like Bode was trying to manipulate Cal at points throughout the story.
I can't believe how blind I've been. I know how to turn him, it's so obvious. Poor bastard's in love.
And it honestly reminds me of like Otto from Spider-Man PS4, but unlike Otto, I feel like there was a sense of Bode in this story that like really did, like he did have a good part of him.
You were lying to us from the very start.
Tanalorr was a way out for both of our families. You were gonna give it to the hidden path. A bunch of strangers.
And you were gonna sacrifice thousands of people to save yourself. You're a monster, Bode.
No. I'm a father.
And Cal making that decision to turn Dagan's perspective into one that was good kind of neglects any of that because Bode knew that bringing that much possible attention to Tanalorr brings a higher risk of the Empire figuring out the planet and possibly attacking, which might put his daughter's life at risk. And I've seen people say that Bode's betrayal was predictable, and I didn't see it coming up at all up until the final moment we had with him before he betrayed us, like outside near this campfire. And maybe it was because by the way the story was designed, it made me extremely disappointed in it at that point in the story. But when I saw this line of dialogue in the story, I was like, oh shit.
You can't be.
You're not the only one who survived.
But I do wonder where he was keeping that lightsaber.
Stashed it in the old prison wallet, if you know what I'm saying.
I really hope I don't know what you're saying.
And it was probably stupid of me to think that the story would just end in some underwhelming final fight to get to Tanalorr, but I really don't think Bode wanted to do this. But Cal's decision, again, forced his hand. And it's honestly sad to see. I really enjoyed the friendship which he and Cal grew throughout the story. I respected why he was in the crew to begin with, to get a better and more safe life for his daughter, and to see his fear get the better of him and make him fall to the dark side even more by the end of the game was really well done in this narrative. There even comes a point at the end of the story where he's gone so far that he starts inadvertently putting his daughter in danger as he starts to get more irrational and angry. But Bode is not the only person who falls from grace in this story or this universe.
It's been a while. I was hoping you drowned on Nur when we blew a hole in your underwater base.
It is delusion to think your actions have had any consequence. The fortress stands. The Inquisitorius continues its work. And I have come for you.
Nuh-uh.
The fuck you mean, nuh-uh?
To end off this segment with the greatest villain of all time, I don't like and have never liked the sentiment that he is used in these games as only fan service, because as I went over in my Jedi Fallen Order video, I I believe Vader is a character that doesn't need any more than 5 minutes to leave his presence on any project, and that remains true here. Vader is probably the pinnacle of what loss can do to someone in Star Wars. He lost his mother, he lost his arm, he lost Padme, he lost himself. And it's Vader that comes in and reminds us that just because you take a few steps forward, that doesn't mean you've crossed the bridge.
You have failed me, Inquisitor.
Avenge us! Run! No!
You would be wise to surrender.
Probably.
And this is another beautiful connection of gameplay and narrative. When you go through this game and you continue to overcome conflict and hone your skills, you feel more and more throughout the game that you are the most powerful person in the galaxy. Or at least that's how I felt. And when you spend all this time to overcome your strongest rival in Trilla, you're reminded that you still haven't crossed that bridge. And Vader does the same thing to Cere too. She taps back into the dark side to try and stop Vader, and Cal again helps her come out of this. And another thing about Vader in this story is, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but if you really think about it in the way I perceive it, as we discussed earlier, Cal wants to rebuild the Order, but he gets his goal questioned multiple times on whether or not what he's doing is truly the right thing to do. But it's Vader that comes in and really shows Cal that he is not ready. And he does the responsible thing and follows in the words of Prof.
You gotta move on and live your life. Find your destiny.
Vader in these games, being the character that he's been established to be, constantly represents an overarching theme of both of these games. I explained what it was in Jedi Fallen Order and how him being in that game relates to the theme of loss, and in Jedi Survivor, a major theme of this game is obsession and how it can be your downfall. And well, how did Anakin turn to the dark side?
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
The tale of Ahsoka Tano.
So, as I mentioned in the beginning, we see Cal's inner darkness throughout the story with multiple moments. The first moment being losing his old crew, the second moment being when Grease lost his arm.
You never give up. And that's what inspires all of us. But you have to remember that where you lead, they will follow.
I know I've been pushing recently, but ever since Grease got hurt...
What happened to Grease is not your fault. But ever since then, you've been reckless.
I keep worrying about something bad happening to one of you.
It's good to acknowledge your fear, but don't let it determine your path.
This cutscene shows Cal starting to get more reckless as people around him are in danger. The third thing is Brother Armias being turned into a pancake, and this is another showing of people around Cal dying from the hands of the Empire. And as this continues to eat away at him, Merrin is again there to help Cal push through it.
Cal, he's gone. Take this. Go through quickly. It'll protect you. Go.
The fourth thing is, after defeating Rayvis, we see the conversation between him and Merrin, where he fears losing himself. The fifth thing is, and this is in the boss fight with Dagan, he tries to use Cal's fears against him, and then we get this really cool moment of like Cal like doing the same to Dagan.
Don't resist. You can't hide from me. Ah, yes. I feel it. Loss, suffering, shame, anger. There's immense power in such emotions, but you were too weak. And now it's too late.
Shuttles are leaving. I will not return. You're lost. You've strayed from the path. And you are no Jedi.
But then finally, there's Cere and Cordova's deaths, that both come at the betrayal of a friend and the hands of the Empire. This is one of the best moments in the entire game for me. You get this grand spectacle of set pieces after a major plot twist, you get to play as Cere, and then you get the thrill of fighting the best boss in the entire game, Darth fucking Vader, even though you know deep down that Cere will lose this fight and probably end up dying. And the developers actually give you some really interesting commentary on this fight specifically. Unfortunately though, that developer commentary is lost. I saved the video a couple months ago of the developer commentary and it is poofed off of my phone. But the gist of what I remember them saying is pretty much what you can tell from the gameplay. Vader in the beginning 2 phases literally like is not really trying against Seer, and that's why you can see him holding the lightsaber with one hand. And they purposefully designed his boss animations around that fact, which is just incredible detail. I really wish I could find the developer commentary, but I can't. If anybody has it, please link it to me in the description. I mean, not the description, the comments or in my Discord DMs. But of course, the hype of this moment is brought down by the inevitable tragedy. I just love this sense of stakes that the story brings, and it really did make me feel like anyone is at risk of dying, and it especially made me question if Cal was really going to let the darkness consume him. One of the things I love about this character and this time period that he's placed in the Star Wars world is the fact that they can kind of be more pushy with how a Jedi that survived Order 66 acts and what path they will choose, and I think both of these games have done that really well, not just with Cal, but with the antagonists. There's a very real possibility that Cal's story will end in tragedy, whether that's through losing himself or just dying entirely. And I swear to God, Respawn, if you do make Cal die, you better make it come at the hands of Vader, and you better make it satisfying. And when we as the player get to use that dark side power, you feel way more powerful and very strong very quickly. We feel how easy letting that rage consume you can be. Bro, this dark side shit is so tough. Come here. Oh, it's like a fucking one-hit kill, Jesus. Oh, y'all do not want this. Come on. Come here. Again. Ah, shit. Oh. Let me get the darkness back real quick. Come here. Oh, I got it. Oh my fucking God, bro. Holy shit. But again, it's through Merrin helping Cal that he doesn't lose himself and go too far. Now, that's not to say that Cal 100% needs someone or he will lose himself, but it is to say that without Merrin or people around him to help him through these emotions, it's a very likely possibility. I also love this dialogue between Merrin and Cal before fighting Bode.
Bode will not let this end peacefully. He has already used fatherhood to justify betrayal and murder. Now we have him cornered, with nowhere else to run. He will kill or be killed. Well, say something.
You're right.
But what about Kata? She's not much younger than we were when our families were taken from us.
I know.
You and I will carry that loss for the rest of our lives. Kata still has a chance.
Yes, she does. Very well. We will give Bode the choice to stand down. For Kata's sake.
Something that again shows Cal's maturity and growth as a person. Even with that rage still looming within him, he still recognizes that killing Bode may not be a good thing to do, and he doesn't want to put his daughter in their shoes. And this brings us to the end of the game. Kata left without her father and was taken in by a crew which she knows very little about, but it is very much so probably the best place for her, being surrounded by people who have struggled all the same as her. And as far as Cal and the crew's ending to the story goes, they finally get to bury the fallen, and then a scene that almost made me tear up the first time I played it. Cal sits there until the sun comes up, in silence until he's ready to speak his final piece.
You saved my life on Bracca. You let me walk my own path when I needed to. You taught me what it truly means to be a Jedi. Now you're gone. We will continue your legacy, Seer. We will build something that can outlast the Empire. I promise you that. I promise. But I'm scared.
I almost lost myself. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready for what comes next.
Cal, guide her through the darkness.
We see Cal now left very unsure of himself and without a person like Cere or Cordova to guide him with the dark side. He has Merrin to help him, but that struggle will continue to loom on even with her being there, and it will be harder without Cere or Cordova. We get an ending to this story that feels yet a bit hopeful.
Well, it's not exactly what we expected, but this place is our home now.
Yeah, Grease. Yeah, I guess it is. Still got a lot of work ahead of us.
It will take time to contact the hidden path.
And find the anchorites.
And build a saloon. I mean, the place is creepy, but it does have franchise potential.
This belongs with you.
It belongs with all of us. What do you think, kid? Should we give it a shot?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Ah, that's the spirit. Oh, that's great. Come on, I'll bet you're hungry. I'll make you something to eat. Did you ever have a scaz steak?
And a bit tragic. And unlike Fallen Order, which has an ending that definitely didn't need a sequel, this game certainly does need a sequel, and that sequel has already been confirmed to be in the works. And I can't wait to see where they take Cal as a character from here, and how he struggles with overcoming or falling into the dark side, or dying tragically and hopefully, again, a satisfying and respectful way. And I also can't wait to see how he struggles with Cere's advice of guiding Kata through the darkness as well. As far as other criticisms go for the story, I guess the most I can say is that some levels don't do much in terms of story, so it can feel like, or it can make the pacing feel a bit slow at times. But I don't really care because it's a video game first, and I would rather have these gameplay sections here than not have them here. But honestly, other than that, I have no other criticisms with the story outside of the problems that I have with Dagan Gera. I still think Dagan Gera was a pretty good character, just thought he could be better. I think the story is absolutely fantastic. It's a borderline masterpiece to me, and one of, if not the best Star Wars story ever told. But now let's get a bit away from the main narrative and onto the other aspects of the game. You have Force echoes that give you glimpses of the past that came before, just like Jedi Fallen Order. You have the conversations between characters that you explore with, like Bode and Merrin, that can either be related to the past or present of any character. I also love all the stuff that we get through exploration, dealing with either droids and raiders on Kobo, or the Empire.
Take a look at that view. Is that a giant crater? Wow. I got it so easy. Guard the cliff, crush the locals, look at the scenery. Nobody's getting past me. Not without a blaster hole in him.
Say less.
Stem BD. Chum for grub and the pay's a joke.
Wait, you're getting paid?
Yeah, we gonna take the long way.
of mine? This damn place. Oh, if I ever find out who made these things. All right, guard the area. There could be more of them.
Yeah, sir. Oh, so I guess this means I'm in command now.
This constantly adds a bit of levity through exploration, and it always makes me want to listen to conversation that I hear as approaching enemies. And I just generally love the atmosphere of exploring as well. Conflicts can be around any corner and you always feel that looming presence, whether it's through a random bounty hunter that you can run into, the raiders, the wildlife, or the Empire. And I love finding these random people throughout the world that you can bring to the saloon as well.
Got any pyrite on you?
Can't say I do.
Then you're nothing. Me? I got a lit. Worked all day for it.
Can I see it?
Okay, I lied. I'm fresh out. I'm a failure.
Overall, this world, like every world that you explore, just feels very alive. My favorite being Scuba Stev, who gives you these funny little stories every time you find him in the world.
No fisher, but Scuba Stev.
You can also find this girl Cage, who gives you bounties to go out and track, and that ends up with a great boss fight and a cool little surprise. You can also find these two people who give you a fun little minigame. And overall, there's tons of side content and stuff to find in the world, ranging from what I've already talked about to fun platforming and combat challenges.
Sense of foul presence. No, it couldn't be.
It couldn't be what? Oh, it's one of them little Yaminas. Are you... This is a joke, right? Like, yeah, no, I'm not, cause like, who really thought of that? Like, yes, fuck you, suck my pussy. Look at you, sitting there dumb as fuck with that bitch ass tongue out. This little dickhead out here thought shit was sweet out for him too. Fuck you, fuck your dad, fuck his bitch ass son, fuck your ancestral tree, fuck the reptiles. That's why the dinosaurs got wiped out by fucking, shit, yeah. To dungeons, bases, and puzzles, as well as other mini-bosses to find throughout the maps. However, I will say, I wish the mini-bosses were a bit more consistent in their quality, because some of them are just enemy types that we have already fought before, just a bit harder and or with a gimmick. Now, that's not to say that I think these are bad, I just wish we got something better, or even more mini-bosses that are just very different from one another. But overall, I love the exploration in this game and going through worlds, and if there's one thing I wish to be focused on and more added in the third game, it's more of these dungeons and bases, because they are extremely fun. I ran into one where you fight like 3 mini bosses and a rancor, and discovering that was just incredibly fun. And to move on to the gameplay and level design, to first start off with the combat, this game genuinely has one of my favorite combat systems in any game. There is a magnitude of enemy variety that you will find going through both the worlds and the main story levels, and there's a very solid and balanced amount of creativity and variety to play around with when you take out those enemies. Officially acquired the best hairstyle in the game. Now we gotta get ourselves some real nice American style. Now this is what I call American style. I call this outfit the bald eagle. I tell you one thing, these droids, these fellas right here, a bunch of soft Empire sissy boys. That boy Vader got soft hand. I call this one the Bald Eagle Strike. And playing on higher difficulties in this game makes the combat very engaging and challenging. And as far as other elements of the gameplay and level design, there's such a good amount of variety between what you're doing every level, between platforming, combat, and boss fights, puzzles and exploration, and the interesting story that gives you motivation to go through these levels. The beautifully designed and diverse environments throughout the game. This game just hits every level of what makes great level design by my standards, and I also love the set pieces in the game. My favorite being this sequence on Jeddah, because this is just a masterpiece. And as far as boss fights go, I think every main story boss in this game is great. And it's crazy that 2023 gave me 2 of my favorite boss fights from 2 of my favorite games, but I've already discussed the side and mini boss fights earlier. But one thing I do want to mention is something with the Darth Vader boss fight. It's cool that if you do like these perfect dodges, you'll get like funny Darth Vader dialogue.
Most impressive. What?
But to get back to the side and mini boss fights, I think they pretty much range from great to meh, but most of the time I'd probably average the side boss fights at around like a 6 or 7 out of 10, and I'd probably average the main story boss fights at like a 9 out of 10. As far as other criticisms I have with the gameplay, I don't really have much to say. The only thing I can talk about is the performance issues that have been fixed now, and the other stuff is just little stuff that I wish to improve about the next game. I would just want to see a bit more moves in combat. Again, those are little things that I see to be improved, and I don't think they need to add much more. But one more moderate issue that I don't understand not being in the game is the meditation training not being in the game. Now, you can walk through the open area on Kobo and get into plenty of combat encounters, so it's not a matter of not having gameplay to engage with after you 100% the game. It's more a matter of like inconvenience in getting to that gameplay, whereas in Jedi Fallen Order you just had a convenient game mode dedicated to this. But fortunately for me, I play on PC, so you know, I got mods and I can make my own meditation training. So overall, Jedi Survivor is a masterpiece in my eyes. I have very little to complain about with this game, and even those gripes are relatively minor. I have a Google Doc in my description for my standard on video games if you want to read that. It does suck that this game came out unfinished for the performance side of things, and it definitely deserved to be criticized for it back then, but even back then I still thought this game was a masterpiece outside of that issue. I want to give a shout out to all my Patreons. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and yeah, it's 7 a.m. and I'm going to bed.